Cars didn't always have license plates. Since the dawn of the horseless carriage, however, crimes were committed and police forces globally needed more information to assist their detective functions. In fact, this desire came well over 100 years before they were horseless at all. In 1749, King Louis XV was requested by the Parisian police to require a vehicle identification system, but his carriages could only inflict the damage of a few horses, and the king needing to be careful not to overstep his control over the Third Estate, this responsibility was pushed on to the next king, Louis XVI. Among much more dire crises at the time, in 1783, XVI requested all carriages in Paris to render a metal frame with a name and address. Over 100 years later, all cars and carriages required plates, to be followed with registration tags and driver's licenses soon. And across the early 20th century, governments all over North America scrambled to implement a vehicle identification system, just as France had done. The difference with the Western Hemisphere, as opposed to Europe, is a sticky thing called the 9th and 10th Amendments. In the United States, the 9th Amendment reads, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people." This single-sentence amendment protects the rights of American citizens that are not directly referenced by the original 7 articles in the Constitution. These are commonly believed to include things like the right to vote, the right to privacy, or importantly here, the right to travel. Does this mean that the federal government couldn't require all cars in the US to brandish license plates due to the people's right to travel? Not likely. But these sorts of things are never really dealt with on a nationwide basis due to the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Meaning, in our case, the job of requiring license plates is up to each state's discretion. I did say North America, though, not just the United States. Although Canada's government mirrors the parliamentary structure, more similar to the Westminster style of Britain, its cultural identity is much more in tune with its southern sister. States are to America as provinces are to Canada. Mexico is similarly divided into states as it mirrors the influences or sometimes economic demands of its neighbor. All of this to say, this is why the plates in the EU look like this, while plates in North America look like this. This line can truly be drawn across the Atlantic, or I suppose the Pacific for those less Eurocentric-minded people out there. This difference in shape and style most likely stems from the inability for cars to regularly travel between here and here. While I am biased, and there is room for argument between form and function, or more so aesthetic versus accessibility, the freedom given to each of the 50 states to innovate what a license plate should be not just in its administrative, bureaucratic function, but as a canvas to represent one's culture. After all, pride in one's plate is pride in one's state. Whether this credit be given to Idaho for including the first graphic in the form, of course, in an Idahoan potato, or to Pennsylvania for being the first to allow for vanity plating, license plates are like flags, and have the ability not just to represent a local culture, but to allow a plate's bearer to find identity and pride in something shared amongst all drivers. When you see a 2025 BMW X3 in Waco, Texas, brandishing a Manitoba plate, you won't just think, wow, that's a really ugly car. You'll think to yourself, is Winnipeg really that friendly? Because that's a strange thing to be known for. Whether you want to be known as the first state, even if just by technicality, or you just want to brandish the ugliest design of all time just to stick out a bit more, plates are an opportunity for community and conversation, something to be proud of, or even as a reminder to travel just a bit more to find out why anyone would put this on a plate. Seriously, Afro-Eurasia, step up your game.